All right, to get started with assembly, I want to start working on the base, but before I can do that, I need to know how I'm going to position the model on the base. So, and to get an image of that, I need to at least attach the cloak. So I know what, well, more what the model would look like when complete. And as preparation for that, I have matte varnished the back side of the model and the inside of the cloak. See, they're not as shiny. This is because light would not reach those areas. I mean, when I'm done, the final coat will be satin varnish. That's my preferred varnish because I think it actually looks more natural than matte for most stuff. I mean, for skin and hair, for example, they have a slight sheen to them. They're not completely flat, non-reflective, but the areas shadowed by the cloak would probably not even have that sheen. So, okay, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to prep this surface for gluing and then glue, and well, we'll see what it looks like. Be back with that. Okay, here she is with the cloak on and also the sword scabbard that I've glued on. So you can clearly see the difference between the shiny and the matte areas. So what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to explain this process. I can't actually do it on camera. I'm just going to briefly place it like so and move it around while looking at it from different angles and at various distances to see where the best placement is on the plinth for this piece. And then I will use a pencil to mark where it should be. Remove this, glue it down, and then start adding other basing material, like basing grit and the like, you know, normal stuff. Be back when that's done. So this is what it looks with some basing grit applied, and it's my normal Gale Force 9 stuff. I should point out the difference in scales because normally with 28mm scale miniatures I use a mix of the fine and the superfine grades, but here, because this is larger, I've mixed the medium and the fine instead, so I've gone up a step, so to speak. I like to have two different sizes because that creates more different textures. It's not just a single even layer. It's more, there's more variety in it. Yeah, so this is the first application. As usual, I will let this dry and put on more PVA to seal it in, and then I'm gonna prime it, and yeah, you'll see. And here's just a brief shot of what the plinth looks like when it's been primed and base coated the top of it. The sides are going to be black later, of course. I decided that the part that was cast in metal looks like some sort of foliage. I'm going to say it's moss or peat or something that's a patch of something that she's standing in for whatever reason, while the ground around it is just earth. So I painted that up brown. And of course, as usual, I'm going to dry brush this to bring out the texture. I don't think I need to show you that. I mean, it's just like any other base. I'll show you what it looks like just before I start putting on other stuff. I'll add some foliage of various kinds, and just to make it look a bit more varied. Yeah. And here we see the plinth after the dry brushing is done, and I put on a first pass of black. It's kind of streaky, but this is because I didn't have any black spray primer to hand, so I had to go dark gray and cover it in black. And when you have a big, wide, open surface like this and you need to cover it without streaks, you do it in several thin layers, not one thick layer, because that's a sure way to get brush strokes. So I'm using the Model Air Black and giving it at least 2 coats, maybe 3. So I'm going to keep adding the black until I'm happy with that, and then I will glue on with PVA some grass tufts. I'm not going to use my normal static grass because that is rather short, too short for the scale. because this miniature is like twice the size of the ones I normally paint. So I'm going to use the big grass tufts. They will look more in scale. Maybe some flowers, some ivy, some leaf scatter, perhaps? We'll see what I find. Now there's a ton of flowers and stuff on it, and the black is looking relatively solid. You can still see a little bit of streakiness from some angles, but I think the varnish is going to take care of that. At least I hope it is. But this is a good 5-6 coats. Now you can see clearly that the position of the feet is off center but that's because her pose is not centered above her feet. The center of gravity and the cloak is flowing away such that it would look odd. So much of the mini would be outside the base and the plinth if I had placed her right here in the middle. But I need to let the PVA set properly before I varnish. But once I've done that, I can go on to final assembly. And so this is what the plinth looks like after an initial coat of varnish, gloss here and matte on top. What I'm going to do next is glue this thing in place. I'm going to do some touch-up work because there are a few spots where paint has rubbed off on the extreme edges and sharp points. Through handling, even with all the care I've done with protecting it with gloss coating, you know, it's gonna happen. It's unavoidable. But the places where it rubs off are, of course, the same points that have the highest highlights, the sharpest highlights, the lightest colors. So that's going to be easy to replicate, even though I don't have the original mixes left. And once that's done, I'm going to do the final varnishing, which, as I've mentioned, is going to be satin. And we'll come back and look at it after that. And here we are, looking at the finished Verthandi miniature. I'm going to pen some still pics to the end of the video from different angles, but here's a quick turnaround of what it looks like. Parts of it anyway. I think for my first attempt at something of this scale, she turned out pretty well. Not perfect, but you know, pretty good. It was a good learning experience. I would have done a few things a little differently in hindsight. As for assembly, I would have put that little basing piece that came with on at the start, really. So I would have had something to hold the miniature by, something more substantial. That would have been useful. And I would not have attached this arm. I would have left the right arm off and painted the sword and the lower arm separately and attach it later, because it did get a little bit in the way at times. But overall, I mean, the things I needed to practice were A, painting something on the scale at all, and B, the NMM. And, well, I accomplished the goal of getting practice at that. And I think I got better at both of those things. Not necessarily perfect, but okay. So, this has been a long video series, and I don't know if I'm gonna make any more series like this, because the response has not been overwhelming. Some people have liked them, but they have not gotten very many views, unfortunately. And it's not that that matters to me in any, I don't know, financial sense. I mean, but it's I if I'm gonna spend a lot of time making videos, I want to know that at least some people have some use out of them. So I'm not sure this format for videos, this long form where I show every little brush stroke, is the way to go. I think I might go back to making shorter videos. But, you know, let me know your thoughts. I mean, I'll wait around for a while. It's possible that this video series simply has a long tail, that it takes people a while to get around to watching every episode because there's so many of them, and that views will increase over time. That's also a possibility. We'll just have to see. But, as always, leave any thoughts and comments below, and I will see you next time. Until then, I'm Dakian, and I'm signing off.